Illinois has achieved a monumental milestone, launching the legalization of cannabis in a way that includes communities that have been left out for far too long, creates good jobs, and expunges thousands of records for those who have lost out on opportunities, and ends prohibition. January 1 was a historic day, and I'm pleased to announce that there were 77,128 transactions yesterday and sales totals of $3,176,256.71. I also want to point out that the amazing thing about that is that there's a significant portion of these dollars that go directly into this community reinvestment fund so we can continue to rebuild communities that have been hardest hit by the war on drugs. So sales are great, but let's never lose sight of the impact that we're having on families around the state. Earlier this week, the governor expunged 11,017 cannabis misdemeanor records, and State's Attorney Kim Foxx had already addressed another 1,000 records, and there's many, many more to come. I want to thank all those who worked hard to make the launch a success and will continue to dedicate themselves to expanding opportunities and righting the wrongs of the past. We saw the lines that we expected, but we also heard from customers and residents they had a good experience. Today we're moving towards phase 2 and our plans to grow this industry. And this is really close to my heart because I'm one of the moms that drafted this, and I feel very, very deeply committed to expanding opportunity for those most impacted by the war on drugs. Today is the deadline for the second round, or the next round of dispensary applications for the next 75 dispensaries that will be licensed May 1st. This day is critical for the first round of social equity applicants who receive extra points during this application process. And as you've all seen, there is a lot of interest from the community in this process. No one else in the country has taken this approach. And we've gotten so many calls from other states trying to figure out how to do equity the way Illinois does equity. It's another good day for our state, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Can you just talk a little bit more about how the social equity aspect, how are you helping make sure that there are Black and brown applicants who are going to get these loans? It's still guaranteed.
Right. So equity applicants have additional points in the application process, and it's designed specifically to go towards these communities that were hardest hit. And we're really excited to see people filing in and bringing in their applications. And even when you look at the faces of the folks who are showing up to do that, it's an incredibly diverse pool. So we're waiting to see what the results of this very intentional, phased in, rolled out process is going to look like. And I want to reiterate that this has never been done in any other state. So we wanted to be clear about the fact that if we did what every other state did, which was just open the door wide open and allow anybody, just hand out licenses, that there would only be a select number of folks who got them. This is very intentionally different. So the application process is designed to actually incentivize equity applicants, people who were from communities and most impacted by the prohibition of the activity that we've just made legal. So in its 3 buckets, it's like, how do you diversify the industry? What do you do with the money? And then how do you undo the harms of what this war on drugs has been? So all of these phases work together. The initial operators fund the loan program, which then goes to the equity applicants. The initial sales fund the R3 program, which goes to community reinvestment. And before the law even became active yesterday, we've already begun expunging thousands of cannabis records. So this is designed to work in tandem with each other in a very intentional way that's very unlike any other state that's attempted it. So I'm excited. I am hopeful. I want to thank everybody who was out there yesterday understanding what we've been saying for 3 weeks, that we were going to see lines. The folks who just showed up from the neighborhood with coffee and donuts for people who were waiting in lines. I heard reports of one very enterprising gentleman who showed up with a taco truck. It was awesome. This is one of those moments where we recognize that the significance of yesterday was that it was the end of prohibition and the beginning of how we hope to grow a new industry here in Illinois and then teach other states how to do it.
What was the intent behind the scoring where applicants for a dispensary will get the same amount of points if they have minority investors as if they say we're going to hire minorities for what are probably going to be pretty low-paying jobs?
Part of the thing that we looked at, especially since every single element of the discussions had an equity lens to it, was that in communities that have been hit the hardest, we have more than just an ownership problem, because that's important. We're undercapitalized. We have more than just an ownership problem. We also have an underemployment, undereducation, undereducated issue. And one of the things that State's Attorney Kim Foxx points out really, really well is that areas that have very good economic, indicators don't suffer from high rates of crime. So we looked at everything from how do you own, how do you get a job in the industry, and when you really think about it, there are hundreds of thousands of people who have criminal stains on their records that have no interest whatsoever in ever even going into the cannabis industry. They need to get regular jobs and have a second chance at life. And we cannot understate the importance of doing criminal justice reform like this and understanding that this is big. And it's big for all the people who will never make the paper and who may not end up being millionaires in this industry, but will be able to start lives and help their families and become productive members of our communities. This is why each phase of these things work together, that it is, how do you diversify the industry? What do you do with the money? And then how do you undo the harms? They all work together.
Today is the last day people can submit those applications. Has this been on par with how many you thought were going to be trying to win one of them?
So we're going to give our staff some time to count and aggregate and make sure that what we have are these legit qualified things, and we'll let everybody know within the next week how many we came. You got to give me points for telling you it was $3,176,256.71 in sales, and for me, that means there's a significant chunk that's going right back into community. So I'm excited about all of it.
What about phase 3? As now there's going to be a new round of applications. What are you doing specifically to do outreach into some of those disadvantaged communities to let them be aware of it?
Well, you all are helping us tell the story. That's one thing. Covering each piece of this. We're going to continue the outreach that the departments are doing. On January 7th, the application rounds will open up for transport and craft grow and infusion licenses. And so people really should be excited about the fact that this is an opportunity to see an industry that grows in all kinds of different areas, whether you actually handle the flower or not. This is a growing, emerging industry. So it's been wonderful to watch, and we're really excited, especially on a day like today when you can watch people actually coming in. It's the last day, and know that this is a rolling thing and the next phase is right around the corner. So I say to people that this phased-in approach was intentional, so that we could do the most important thing in all of this, which is protect market share for those equity applicants that are coming online. Because that is probably the one thing that didn't happen anywhere else, is that licenses were let and then people operated free and unfettered. And what we're doing is trying to take this time to turn an industry around so that it actually looks like the state that we all call home. That's an exciting thing. And we're all, waiting to see how this turns out. But it takes work. And it takes a lot of effort and energy to actually turn it, and that's what we're working on.
How encouraged are you by what you're initially seeing by all the people that are here today and previously put in applications? We have moments. I've been watching and talking to all my colleagues and the people on our team, and we're all acutely aware of the historic relevance of what yesterday was. It is a sea change in policy. It's a sea change in drug policy reform and criminal justice reform, in economic development, and in the intentionality that went behind building equity into these phases. So we're all acutely aware of the fact that we want to look back 5 years from now and say that Illinois was the state that figured it out. Illinois was the state that taught every state that came after us how to do it right. So I'm very encouraged, but we know that this is just the beginning. This is the end of prohibition. This is the beginning of what this legal industry is going to look like, and it's going to take some work.
Is there any limit on the number of conditional licenses that will be issued in May?
So these dispensaries, there'll be 75 that roll out this time. Then we're going to do a demand study and a disparity study. So another key critical part that was built into the legislation, it was to study the way this happened and the way the rollout happened and who it helped and how it actually ended up being implemented. And that's designed so that we can make sure that if we have to make course corrections, that we'd be able to do that in a constitutional way. So there could be a cap of about 500 licenses at the end of a mature market. But we're not allowing those things to grow too quickly, because we're designing a program that can grow and accept new equity applicants into this market. In every way, from owning to working in and to being a part of this new emerging industry and economy.
At the same time, the demand is huge. So
Yes.
how are you going to do to cope with it?
We have to recognize that the lines show demand, and that means there's an incredible opportunity for this industry to grow. And that's the point, is that we didn't want to open the doors wide open right now so that that opportunity would be lessened. You don't want to allow a market to be saturated and monopolized in a way that crowds out people who are new entrants into the market. So this is absolutely designed intentionally. So those lines actually show that there's an incredible opportunity to grow this industry. There's room for new people to come in. And that's what's happening today. So people are here turning in their applications. We'll spend the next few weeks going through those applications so that we hopefully will have an industry that looks very different than the way it does anywhere else, frankly, in the world. So having said that, we know that the world is watching, and this takes intention and time and work.
From what you're seeing,
Mm-hmm.
was there something yesterday that didn't work, something you want to change right away?
Something I want to change right away. One, when people are waiting for something to go bad, and I was hoping nothing would go bad, and when I saw neighbors coming out and talking to people and operators and owners walking through the lines and people sharing their stories, I know that we're keenly interested in protecting patient access. Patients tell us that they're happy that we actually embedded into this process a protection, and we want to monitor to make sure that people who need this as their medicine are taken care of. And that's also unique amongst any of the other states. So for us, it's about monitoring as this happens. We had an incredibly, actually, for the most part, quiet rollout day with happy lines talking about what an incredible day it was to mark the end of Prohibition. And that was an exciting thing. That was a really exciting thing.
Outside of an early glitch, was there any other software issues, any incidents?
Nope. Nope.
Are there going to be additional second site dispensaries that will be licensed in the next couple months?
Yeah, that'll continue to grow. I keep using the word grow. that'll continue to come online. This is one of those times where I said we're intentional. We knew that all the people who had the opportunity to be second site licensed wouldn't necessarily be up at that time period. And again, we're very conscious of making sure that people who need medical access continue to have what it is they need. So yes, that will come online. The 75 dispensaries then will be led around May and June, and then we're gonna hard lid study it to make sure that what we did was what we intended to do. So this is, again, just the beginning.
What does the timeline look like for the 75 that find out they get licensed in May or June? So how soon do you think it'll be before they actually?
So we'll know in May.
Right, but then from there, like, I mean, is it going to be like they'll be able to open the next day, or are there many more steps after that?
Everyone will be different, because this is, you find out you had a light. One of the things that we removed as a barrier to equity applicants was the need to have real estate in advance of having your license, because that was a significant barrier. Just like the governor talks all the time about the barrier to the access of capital. One of those things for access to capital is real estate to do this. So some people will be ready to go. And then some people will be finding locations and building out and hiring, and we'll see those things come online. That's another reason why it's extremely important for us to protect market share for those folks to come online. You can't have a situation where when they finally get there, there's nobody to sell to. So one of the things that we saw with these lines is that there's an incredible opportunity, and we see a lot of people who are willing, ready, and able to do the work it takes to get up and running.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.